Hello and welcome to Lily de Silva, Lesson 10. This is the exercise for translation from English into Pali. Those of you who are following the printed book, it's the section 4, starting on page 39. And we'll follow the usual procedure, which you can see written on the shared screen here. Right, number 1. Goats roam in the park to eat leaves and drink water. Aja pannani khaditva udakam pivitum uyyane ahindanti. Aja pannani khaditva udakam pivitum uyyane ahindanti. Now, note very importantly here, if you just wanted to say goats roam in the park to eat leaves, leaving out the bit about drinking water, you would say aja pannani khaditum uyyane ahindanti. And if you were just saying they roam in the park to drink water, you would say aja udakam pivitum uyyane ahindanti. So you've got what would otherwise be two infinitives, pannani khaditum and udakam pivitum. Where you have those two infinitives as a sequence of verbs, and even though the first verb would on its own be in the infinitive, that's aja pannani khaditum uyyane ahindanti, because there's a sequence of two verbs, khaditum and pivitum, the first one goes into the absolutive form. That's why you say aja pannani khaditva udakam pivitum uyyane ahindanti. So it's not as if there's a sequence of actions here. The goats, having eaten leaves, then wander around in the park in order to drink water. There's just these two verbs in a sequence, therefore the first one goes into the absolutive form. Number 2. The wicked man wishes to hit the dog with his foot, or to kick the dog. Asapuriso padena kukkuram paharitumichati. Asapuriso padena kukkuram paharitum ichati. 3. Friends go to the park to play with their dogs. Mitta kukkurehi kilitum uyyanam gacchanti. Mitta kukkurehi kilitum uyyanam gacchanti. Number 4. The lay devotee wishes to come home and instruct his sons. Upasako gehem agantva putte ovaditum ichhati. Upasako gehem agantva putte ovaditum ichhati. Now, looking at this sentence in the Pali, it could mean that having got home, Gehemagantva, having come home, the Upasaka then conceived the wish to instruct his sons, and it could conceivably mean that. But if it means he wants to go home in order to instruct his sons, then he wants to go home to instruct his sons. There would be two infinitives there entering in tum, but because you get the sequence, agantum ovaditum, the first verb in that sequence goes into the absolutive. So even if the first one, even if the agantwa, the gehem agantwa, the coming home, is also something that he wants to do, it will go into the absolutive rather than the infinitive, because it's part of a sequence of verbs, all governed by ichati. So that's why it's upasako gehem agantwa putte uvaditum ichati. Number 5, the deity wishes to go to the monastery and speak to the Buddha. Devo viharam gantva buddhena siddhim bhasitum ichati. Devo viharam gantva buddhena siddhim bhasitum ichati. Again, that's the same principle as the previous sentence. There are two things he wants to do. He wants to go to the vihara and speak to the Buddha. So the first one, if it was just the deity wants to go to the vihara, would be Devo viharang gantum ichati. But it's because there are two things he wants to do, to go to the vihara and speak. The first goes into the absolutive, the twa, rather than the infinitive. So Devo viharang gantva buddhena siddhim bhasitum ichati. 6. The good man wishes to protect virtues and give alms. Sappuriso silani rakkitva danani datumichati. Sappuriso silani rakkitva danani datumichati. So clearly the meaning here isn't that after he's finished protecting the virtues, he then wants to give alms. Obviously not. What he wants to do is both those things simultaneously, to protect the precepts or protect the virtues and to give alms. But for the reason I've just given, the first verb into the absolutive, even though it's actually concurrent with the other one. So the protecting of the virtue and the giving of dana are concurrent things. But despite that, the first verb will be in the absolutive. Silani rakitva danani datumichati. Number 7, pigs run from the village to enter the forest. Sukara aranyam pavisitum gamam hadhavanti. Sukara aranyam pavisitum gamam hadhavanti. Number 8, the farmer asks for it says hoe, in fact it's translated as spade, written as spade as part. The farmer asks for a spade from the merchant to dig pits in his field. So kasako khete avate kanitum vanijamha kudalam yachati. Kasako khete avate kanitum vanijamha kudalam yachati. Number 9, lay devotees assemble in the monastery to worship the Buddha. Buddham vanditum upasaka vihare sannipatanti. Buddham vanditum upasaka vihare sannipatanti. And equally you could put upasaka at the beginning of the sentence. Upasaka Buddham vanditum vihare sannipatanti. Without any change of meaning. Number 10. The uncle comes out of the house to call the fisherman. Matulo divaram pakkositum gehamha likhamati. Matulo divaram pakkositum gehamha likhamanti. Number 11. Farmers wish to get oxen. Merchants wish to get horses. Kasaka ngone labhitum icchanti. Vanija ase labhitum icchanti. Kasaka gone labhitum icchanti. Vanija ase labhitum icchanti. Now here you would not be allowed to express the first verb. Gone labhitum icchanti. You couldn't put that in the absolutive because it's not the same subject. A string of verbs goes in the absolute, a string even of two, but you can use the absolutive only if the subject of both verbs is the same. Here there are separate subjects. One is farmers and the other is merchants. So each has got to have its own verb. Kasaka gone labhitum icchanti, vanija ase labhitum icchanti. 12. The king wishes to abandon his palace. Bhupalo pasadam pajahitum ichhati. Bhupalo pasadam pajahitum ichhati. Number 13. Men take baskets and go to the forest to collect fruits for their children. Manusa pitake adaya darakanam palani sangharitum aranyam gachanti. Manusa pitake adaya darakanam palani sangharitum aranyam gachanti. The farmer wanders in the forest to cut grass for his oxen. Kasako gunanam tinani chinjitum aranye ahindati. Kasako gunanam tinani chinjitum aranye ahindati. Those of you who are following the printed key, there is a misprint in number 14. Of course, it should be it's written as gunanam, it should be gunanam. It's the dative generative plural in anam. 15. Men wish to live in houses in the city with their sons. Manusa puttehi siddhim nagare gehesu vasitum icchanti. Manusa puttehi siddhim nagare gehesu vasitum icchanti. And here we have two consecutive locatives, nagare, in the city, gehesu, in houses. 16. Having stood on the rock The child sees flowers on the trees. Pasanasmim tattva darakur kesu pupani passati. Pasanasmin tattva darako rukesu pupani passati. Verse 17. Having received a garment from the teacher, the doctor is pleased. Acharyamha sartakam labhitva vejopasidati. Acharyamha sartakam labhitva vejopasidati. The hunter calls a friend to drag a goat from the forest. Luddako aranyamha ajam akadhitum sahayam pakkosati. Luddako aranyamha ajam akadhitum sahayam pakkosati. Number 19. The sailor calls merchants to cross the sea. Samudantaritum naviko vanije pakkosati. Samudantaritum naviko vanije pakkosati. And of course you could put the subject of that sentence at the beginning. So naviko samudantaritum vanije pakkosati. 20. Having risen from the seat, the good man wishes to speak with the monk. Sappuriso asanamha uttaya samanena saddhim bhasitum ichchati. Sappuriso asanamha uttaya samanena saddhim bhasitum ichchati. 21. Children wish to get down to the water and bathe. Daraka udakam otaritva nahayitum icchanti. Daraka udakam otaritva nahayitum icchanti. And again, a word of caution. Looking at that in Pali, it could, on the face of it, look as if the boys, having already got down to the water, then decide they want to bathe. No, they want to do two things. They want to go down to the water to bathe. Daraka udakam otaritva nahayatum icchanti. 22. The minister mounts the horse to go to the forest to shoot deer. So, aranyam gantva mige vijitum amacho asam aruhati. Aranyam gantva mige vijitum amacho asam aruhati. And again here, the minister is mounting his horse, asam aruhati, in order to go to the forest. If that's all it was, would be aranyam gantum asam aruhati. Asam aruhati, he mounts his horse, aranyam gantum, to go to the forest. But he's mounting his horse to do two things: to go to the forest to shoot deer. So the first of the two verbs in that sequence, as usual, goes in the absolutive. Aranyam gantva mige vijitum amacho asamaruhati. 23. The boy wishes to cook rice for his uncle's friends. Kumaro matulasamittanam bhattam pachitum ichhati. Kumaro matulasamittanam bhattam pachitum ichhati. 24. Jackals leave the forest to enter the farmer's fields. Kassakanam kete pavisitum sigala aranyam ha nikhamanti. Kassakanam kete pavisitum sigala aranyam ha nikhamanti. 25. Men wish to see objects with their eyes by the light of the sun. Manusa suryasa alokena nayanehi rupani passitum icchanti. Manusa suryasa alokena nayanehi rupani passitum icchanti. And that's it for the English to Pali exercise in lesson 10.